Hey guys, a little bit of an unusual announcement this week already, and not really because of the content of it, but more so the timeliness of it, the earliness of it, if you will. Today is October the 12th, 2021, and Sig Sauer has already announced that they will not be attending SHOT Show on January 18th, 2022 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Sig Sauer has been a part of SHOT Show for as long as I can remember, for quite some time now. And for them to announce early on that they're not going to be attending, it was a bit of a shock to me. Now, there are some things that kind of play into that. Obviously, and Sig Sauer did put out a statement on this, and I do commend them for the wording of their announcement and how they actually conducted the announcement. And they actually were very truthful and forthcoming in their announcement. They mentioned that they were fearful of the virus, the China flu, whatever you want to call it. And they also realized that because of the restructuring of the whole floor plan, those of you that may not know, SHOT Show is moving over to one of the other casinos. So it's not just going to be at the Sands, at the Venetian and the Palazzo where it normally is. They're expanding, going to another casino, and they've enticed some of the larger manufacturers out there in order to get people to go there. They've enticed some of the larger people to go. I don't know if Sig was one of those that was going to the other location or not, but nevertheless, they've restructured all the floor plans. Remember, a lot of these, especially the big manufacturers, a lot of these guys have had the same floor plan and the same booth that they just store annually every single year and bring it out for just SHOT Show in Las Vegas. They've had the same floor plan. Those of you that go know, you recognize the booths. You know what booth you're going to without even looking at the sign. So now that the floor plans are all restructured, a lot of these companies, and probably most of them, are having to rebuild all of their stuff. So the big dollar amount tied to that. This is probably one of those things where Sig was at that point where they were going to have to pull the trigger at some point to initiate the building of all of that, which they claim is upwards to $1 million in having to build that. So that, coupled with the Rona scare, is going to make them want to stay home. Now, I have mixed feelings about this. I applaud them on their honesty. Not many companies would put out such a detailed press release this early in advance because they're going to catch heat over this. And I think them showing their honesty to a certain degree is at least going to take the edge off of that a little bit. Let me go. I'm just going to read you some spots. I'll post a link for the actual statement by Sig, but let me read you parts of it. One of the things they say is that they will be making a $500,000 donation to the NSSF to support both its mission and ongoing critical support of our industry. I think that's really important, especially with them coming out so early, because this is no doubt going to trigger a bit of a domino effect from some of the other manufacturers out there, and especially some of the small guys. Think about it this way. The big guys can afford to take a hit, right? Especially since things are selling like hotcakes right now. Think of all the smaller companies out there that cannot afford that hit. Think of all these companies that this might be their first SHOT Show. They may see this as an opportunity to get out now before they waste and spend money, because they're not going to get that money back. What if they were introducing their brand this year at SHOT Show in Las Vegas? They may not do it now. So it's definitely going to trigger a bit of a domino effect. And by Sig Sauer not only coming out and commending the NSSF, excuse me, on their ongoing work for gun safety and a lot of other things that they do, but making that $500,000 contribution to them is their way of saying that we feel like their work is still important. We're still going to invest some money in it, but we're just not going to go. Now, moving on to the reasoning behind that. They say Sig Sauer has an extremely large presence of SHOT Show, sending over 140 employees to the show and our pre-show range day event. Maintaining this presence, or even a scaled back minimum presence for 2022, represents a significant health risk to all 2,600 of our employees across our 13 U.S. locations, as individuals attending the show return to our facilities and risk continued exposure to our entire employee base. I suppose if you feel like the virus is as bad as what the media says that it is, and I'm treading softly here to not hurt any feelings out there, I suppose if you're that worried about it and you're that scared of the nature of the virus, as bad as it may or may not be, then this might be the right move. I will leave it at that. They go on to say that the SHOT Show space was redrafted, as I mentioned earlier, necessitating the need for a complete booth reconfiguration design. Out-of-pocket expenses from this point forward will be well over $1 million, and based on the uncertainty of large-scale shows and events, this expense is not financially prudent. Well, unless SHOT Show never happens again, they're going to have to build this at some point. Maybe, and just maybe, they're thinking that, I think the virus is real. Let me say this right now. I'm going to get my little disclaimer out of the way. I think the severity of it has been manufactured. Again, I know the virus is real. It is not the Black Plague. But I think a version of a virus, because the government has had so much fun with control and realizing how many willful slaves they have out there from a control standpoint, I do feel like it's here to stay to a certain degree. So maybe SIG is figuring that, okay, I'm not going to spend $1 million to build my brand new booth for whatever the floor plan might or might not be this year. Things may go back to normal. They may be thinking that they can just sit on there, use their old booth in the future. You know, if this is how it's going to be from now on, this planned expansion of SHOT Show happened before coronavirus. So they anticipated, naturally based on the growth of the show, they were bursting at the seams and it was time to expand. Well, maybe they're going to have to pump the brakes on that now. Maybe SIG is going to be able to use their old booth and not have to invest that $1 million in building a new booth. Now, let's face it, if they're sending 140 employees out there for a full week, we're talking about probably flying in at least 2 to 3 days before the actual event, staying until the day after. That's a lot of hotel expenses. That's a lot of food. That's a lot of everything. So by making that contribution of $500,000 to the NSSF, they're probably still saving about $1 million just by not having to go, not including the rebuild of the new booth. So anyway, guys, my reason for bringing all this up is I hope this is not a sign of the times. With Sig Sauer being such a big brand, and I'm not knocking Sig on any of this, you know, if that's the way they feel, it's not going to be easy traveling. I'm going to tell you that right now. Look at Southwest. The mandates for the vaccine is already showing that travel, we're not even in the travel season yet. Wait till Thanksgiving weekend. We're going to get a real taste of it. But imagine all of that travel in January from all these people, from all these companies and all these dealers and all these independent stores and whatnot, trying to go to SHOT Show and fly over there when we're right in the middle of pilots and the rest of the airline industry calling in sick, quitting, getting terminated because they don't have their new vaccine. That's going to also extend to a lot of the hotels, the rental car places, just the, I guess, entertainment industry, tourism industry in general. We haven't seen the full hit of it because these mandates have been announced but not implemented to the point that people are getting laid off and all that. So SIG may be making the greatest call ever because they may have the foresight to see what's coming, because I do agree that things are going to get a whole lot worse. The state of Nevada is not exactly the most freedom-friendly state right now, so it would be a little bit problematic to have everybody go over there. I could see a bunch either ignoring a whole lot of these weird little mandates that Las Vegas would have, or else a lot of people would be getting in trouble. So again, I do think this is somewhat of a domino effect. I do think this is going to trigger a lot of other companies, especially the smaller ones, to make some decisions. In a lot of cases, these bigger companies out there, like the Sig Sauers, this may be their opportunity to say, hey, look, Sig Sauer did it first. We're just doing it because Sig did it, you know. Now it's like that's the scapegoat out there, Sig is. Sig got ahead of it, and Sig's going to take some lumps over it. But at the same time, that's going to be the excuse for some of these bigger companies out there to do it. I hate this, guys. I hate it for the industry. We already did not have a SHOT Show this year in 2021. My prayers are out there for the gun industry. They may be selling a lot of things out there, but we have to prepare for a fight. I do believe that once the midterms are passed next year in 2022, there's going to be a massive fight on our hands attacking our gun rights. Right now, I think it's a tough call for them because they have so many things that Joe Biden has botched that they're trying to repair and fix right now. I don't think guns are on the top of their list, but I do see once midterms pass next year in November 2022 to look for an onslaught of that. And I do feel like shows like SHOT Show put on by the NSSF and the NRA show even are great ways for us to come together and make sure that we stay strong in numbers. I think now this is going to test our connectivity to one another, and now we're going to have to just work a little bit harder to try to do things virtually, if you will. So we'll see, guys.
Let's go, Brandon.